Chapter 6. Scullius was stunned as his socket flames flickered within his skull. What were the odds that someone who had just come from a frying pan would jump into the fire? Apparently, 100% for him. TK. The moronic undead couldn't help but start to shake as he saw the looming figure before him that sat upon the massive stone throne. The stone looked aged with meaningful carvings that held an ancient feel atop its gray-hued mass. The figure that sat atop was nothing short of majestic and regal. While sitting atop the throne with its arms on the armrests, it was at least 5 meters tall. A massive black ape with a grand mane around its head gazed deeply at the small figure of Scullius with its golden eyes that emitted a resplendent light. A beautiful golden white light revolved above its head with the shape of a crown, illuminating the space further. Streaks of golden fur could be seen amidst the dark ones, forming beautiful runic symbols on its body that almost seemed to be alive. The giant ape opened its mouth as it gazed at the bony intruder, speaking in an annoyed tone. An undead dares to enter not only the tremor forest but my territory also? Is this a declaration of war by your kind? A booming voice tremored through the ground and shook Scullius, a gust of wind making the grass and tree leaves dance. The flames in Scullius' sockets danced widely as he looked at the giant in front of him. He was scared, but he was also confused. What did you say? He stammered as he inquired what the great Main Mountain ape had said. He couldn't understand its language. Unlike the guidance field which used the language he was used to, Dead Man Land language, he couldn't comprehend the ape's words. The confusion he was in would have been apparent if his face was actually a face. The ape tilted its head as it realized that there was a language barrier. It pointed its giant finger at Scullius, a small golden light speeding out of it and into Scullius' head. A notification appeared in Scullius' vision, announcing a surprising development. You have been gifted the skill Greater Communication by the Great Main Mountain Ape Azilla. You can now understand and speak all low to mid-level languages. Oh! Scullius said as he looked at the notification. However, he couldn't dismiss the pain he was feeling from the burning presence of the giant ape. Be careful with your words. You are under supervision by advanced skills. The Skill King's court can destroy you immediately if you displease the ape. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelbin.com to experience faster update speed. Val chipped in. Scullius shook from the words he heard. He wanted to be mad that Val had let him walk into this monstrous beast's territory without giving him a warning, but he withheld himself. As the dragonfly-like creatures flew around him, Scullius chose his next words carefully. Will you still show arrogance after I have granted you the means to speak? A slightly angry tone in the voice of the ape accompanied by the crackling of its eyes with golden lightning arcs tore Scullius from his thoughts. His body continued to sizzle as he looked up at the great Main Mountain ape. No. No one wants a war. Truly. I mean, look at you, be our great mountain ape. No one would want to fight you, said Scullius. The words the ape had said about a war made his core beat. Is this where Somanda was coming? Did the undead come here once? He thought. Then why are you here, undead? Asked the Azilla. You see. I ran away, from my master, said Scullius. A golden light flashed around Scullius, going up and down his shivering body. Azilla narrowed his eyes. You seem to be telling the truth, he said. Why did you run away? I was about to be erased, Scullius answered as he felt a progressive weakness. Another golden light flashed from him as Azilla gazed down at him. The ape nodded as he looked at Scullius. The dragonflies with butterfly wings flew onto Scullius as if attracted by the golden light that would emanate from him. They were larger than what one would expect, almost the size of a bird, which made it all the more annoying for Scullius when their wings collided with his body. He tried swatting them away as he focused on what the ape would do. After all, his stats might be chopped down, but he could still push them away. All debuffs and imposed skills have been lifted. Scullius received a notification from the guidance field. The ape rested on its throne as its deep presence receded quite a bit. Scullius even felt some of the force that pounded on him receding, bits of his strength returning little by little. If you are merely a stray, then there is nothing else to discuss, Azilla said. Scullius was relieved for a second. However, an undead cannot be allowed in the forest to mingle with the living. You shall perish now. Depression hit Scullius in the next second. He was going to die while being assaulted by those annoying dragonflies. He couldn't die right after he had managed to escape death. It was so unfair. Why would his luck be so terrible after he had just managed to pull off an impossible escape from Somanda? Val, he called. Nope. It seems I'll have to find another candidate for these treasures. It was nice knowing you, young undead. Oh, come on. Thinking fast, Scullius tried to buy himself a few seconds. Oh, great ape. But I'm not an undead, he cried. The great main mountain ape gazed at him with its powerful gaze. Since it had deactivated its skills, it didn't get an automatic response, but who wouldn't be able to smell and see the dark red stench of undeath that followed this small undead? Do you take me for a fool? He asked as he raised his finger, a glimmering coil of golden lightning concentrating around it. I'm so screwed. Scullius thought as he saw the bright golden light that intimately promised to leave nothing of him after it washed over his body. Think. Think. He thought, the dragonflies still dancing around his body with an annoying playfulness. Scullius swatted them away angrily. Damn it, at least let me meet my doom in peace. He thought as his bony hands struck some of the dragonflies which had surprisingly strong bodies. His fingers beat against two of the dragonflies' ends where the golden light would flicker and PCH. PCH. The dragonflies screeched and a golden liquid flew from their ends, them falling to the ground. From Azilla's finger, the lightning was about to shoot towards Scullius when he saw the dragonflies fall to the ground. They didn't last for long before they stopped screeching and died. At that moment, you have killed a LV1 star gold clusterfly. You have gained experience. You have maxed your evolution lesser moronic undead and have become greater moronic undead. You have killed a LV1 star gold clusterfly. You have gained experience. You have maxed your evolution greater moronic undead and have become standard undead. Congratulations, you have evolved from a pitifully pathetic species to the very standard form of undeath. Congratulations, you are now legible for lifeless evolution. Please hold on. A burst of energy covered Scullius, emitting a light blue hue that emanated from his sockets and core. Under the perplexed gaze of the great main mountain ape, Scullius roared. Chapter 7. Name, none. Tier, 0. Level, 1. Race, Star Gold Clusterfly. INV. Status. Skills. Star Store. The tube at its end stores Star Gold paste which when accumulated for 2 days can be injected into the body to boost overall stats by 120% for an hour. However, this tube links directly to vital organs and if damaged, can lead to shock with a high possibility of death. Scullius roared into the sky as a burst of power shot through him, an intense shimmer cascading through the entire area as even the bright golden hue was overshadowed by the light blue. Azilla looked at the scene pondering on what to do. What made him hesitate was the fact that he noticed that this little undead actually had the qualification to be accompanied by the voice of worlds. As a higher ranked being, it wasn't too difficult for him to notice as many perks came with his tier and level. He decided to see what would happen next and judge from there. After all, the little undead was still in his majestic territory. Scullius' frame began to change. His height increased significantly, bringing his figure to almost 2 meters. His once burnt bones became clean, the charred darkness being removed from them. The density and mass of his bones increased significantly, a luster that was a few shades from a proper silver donning his bones. The flame in his sockets flared, its hue becoming a dark blue one that glowed with an incredible intensity. Scullius felt the sensation of pain and ecstasy at the same time. The light show soon died down as his figure looked nothing like the dreadful and pitiful undead from a few seconds ago. Congratulations, you have evolved from standard undead and have begun the new path of lifelessness, professionally termed null life. Would you like to proceed with all the following steps immediately? Scullius was dazed as he looked at the notification before his eyes. He had evolved thrice without any breaks, his mind feeling rather drained and excited. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelben.com to experience faster update speed. This is, he thought as he felt the changes in his body. He felt a great amount of strength, clarity in his thought process and an unrelenting sense of freedom. This sensation was amazing. I can't believe your atrocious luck took a U-turn at the last second. Ah, so you're still here, you Sakathole, thought Scullius as he pulled himself out of his dazed state. Well, you're still alive, so. What is the meaning of this? The booming voice of Azilla shook Scullius once again, as even after he had evolved, he still felt a tremor in his core. Damn it! I almost forgot that I was still here. He looked at the giant ape whose eyes now showed a bit of interest in him. Scullius mumbled as he thought of what to say. In the next moment, his socket flames brightened as he provided an answer. As I said before, oh great Azilla. I'm not an undead, ahaha, he said sheepishly. At first Azilla thought to dismiss this nonsense he had heard from Scullius before, but when he focused his sense on the little skeleton, he was perplexed. The repulsive energy that coiled around Scullius just a few seconds ago had completely vanished. What he felt at this moment was nothing. The skeleton standing before him while scratching its head had no signs of undeath at all. What are you? He asked. Scullius stammered, his mind racing to form a convincing argument. The notification had told him that he had graduated from undeath, so he technically wasn't lying. He then remembered a grand detail. He was the grand storyteller who had once convinced his brethren that he had coaxed the great Somanda into caressing his skull. Surely he could wiggle out of this with a lie, right? With his mind clearer than ever, he formed a chain of lies that were as cold and sturdy as shivering straw before he presented them to the giant ape before him. He did his best to calm himself and then spoke. O great Azilla! I am but the lowest servant of the Grand Emperor Bonnet. I was sent to scour the lands of the dead under the spell which forged my appearance into that of a common undead. I have returned to give him all that found after fleeing from a lich who had grown suspicious of me, he said, trying his damnedest to make sure he sounded convincing. Azilla narrowed his eyes. Who is this Grand Emperor Bonnet? I'm afraid I cannot tell you any more than this, as I am under a spell that keeps me from giving away knowledge. Please, allow me to return before I face his lustrous wrath, Scullius said. The deep hum of Azilla's voice echoed through the forest. I searched him with gargantuan scrutiny and found nothing of note within him. He was merely a pitiful undead before. Is this Bonnet's magic that strong to be able to convince even I, that is he is an undead? Why does he still look like an undead even after his escape then? Azilla thought. Scullius waited while trying to not be overly suspicious. It could be excused that he was shivering as he was in the presence of a powerful beast, but any more would attract attention. As he waited, a notification appeared before him. You are under gargantuan scrutiny. You are practically naked before the great main mountain ape. Again. Scullius thought. He was screwed. Or so he thought. Azilla was shocked. He couldn't find anything of note now with his advanced skill. To make matters worse, he couldn't identify anything about Scullius except his level. His race was unknown as well as all important details. Who is this Bonnet? His power is capable of this much. Did he create this little thing, or is he using powerful magic to mask everything away? Is this supposed to be a single lowly servant? Perhaps I should leave it be. I might offend a power I cannot contend against. Very well. You may leave. I shall forgive your trespassing and a murder of my lanterns as a gesture of respect for your Emperor Bonnet. Be on your way, Azilla said. Thank you, O great Azilla, Scullius bowed as he backtracked. He walked slowly, then briskly, feeling the dense presence of Azilla vanishing from behind him. Soon he was out of the golden area that represented the territory of the great main mountain ape. He seemed calm on the surface, but within. I survived. I did it. Scullius strikes again. As if I was scared out of my skull. I can't believe he bought that. I'm speechless. Vow's voice rang in Scullius' head. Humph. Don't underestimate me, Vow bro. I have more redeeming qualities than you think. Wait, that didn't come out right. Sure, says the guy who evolves twice by killing a single LV1 cluster fly. Now that I think about it, just how weak was I to get this strong from killing just 2 of those thing? What part of moronic undead did you not understand? If you had paid attention to your status, you would know that you had no level and no tier. Gaining cumulative experience of any kind would push your strength to higher levels, as it did just now. You should also be grateful that since your evolution is new and you have not yet proceeded with its activation, Azilla couldn't find anything suspicious with his advanced skill. I see, Scullius thought. He had really dodged a bullet. I'm really not an undead anymore, asked Scullius. Nope. I advise you to inspect the changes for yourself. Scullius was quite excited. He was feeling great. He had just escaped from a powerful beast and was about to enjoy a new path that offered different evolutions and powers. What could possibly go wrong? Humph. Humph. He heard the sound of hooves scraping against the ground. A short figure was covered in a red aura as it glared at him. It was the boar. Scullius was shaken at the sight of this enemy. Bro, you're still here. Get alive, will you? He screamed. Atrocious. Vow remarked. Chapter 8. Scullius looked at his nemesis, wondering how he would deal with this situation. He was angered by how this world was juggling him between the frying pan and the fire. The boar didn't seem to want to leave him alone, and it looked more resolute than ever. The blue flames in Scullius' socket blazed with a deep light as he considered his next move. Damn it! What do I do? Last time I was barely able to evade this guy, now wait, he thought as it suddenly dawned on him that he was not a moron embedded in bone anymore. He had evolved thrice. Surely that had to count for something. In the next second, he took off at top speed, heading to the right. The wind blew past him as he ran. Scullius was shocked by his new speed. Now we're talking, he yelled as he raced forward. The boar was perplexed by Scullius' sudden dash, following behind at its full speed as well, while the red energy around it refused to die down. However, it found that reducing the gap between it and Scullius was much more difficult now. I can't believe that with your newfound strength, your first choice is to run away. What do you know, Vow bro? Scullius angrily barked at the voice of worlds. What I do know is that you should check your own status more often. New skills are available to you even though you haven't proceeded with the full options from the lifeless package. New skills. Scullius thought before he pulled up the guidance field. Name, Scullius. Tier, 0. Level, 1. Race, null life form, Boneman. INV. Status, doomed, adverse, ×2. Stats. Strength, 20. Agility, 20. Intelligence, 5. Endurance, infinite. Luck, atrocious. Health, 20/20ths. Mana, 40/40ths. Null life essence, 50/3000. Skills. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelbin.com to experience faster update speed. Mana Sense LV10, Permission to Evolve. Flesh it like you mean it LV1. Lifeless Evolution. Static Limbo. Null Extraction. Unbound. Oh, it changed. Look at all this. Scullius exclaimed as he ran. Wait. My luck is still atrocious. Oh, there's new skills. Oh. Let's see. Static Limbo. Suspend a target at the corridor of life and death. The duration is dependent on the level difference between the user and the target. Mana requirements, 50 mana points. Duration, dependent on level difference. Cooldown, 5 minutes. Null extraction. Extract the null life essence from living creatures. Mana requirements, none. Duration, none. Cooldown, none. Unbound. Using null life essence, grant upgrades to any stat, skill, or weapon. More info accessible. Mana requirements, none. Duration, 5 minutes. Cooldown, 1 hour. Urgh, too much information. Scullius clutched his skull with his one remaining hand. What is all this? I'm not about to give you a crash course when you are on the run. Get rid of your tail and finish your evolution. Scullius grunted as he looked at the new skills. He couldn't understand what they meant, especially the first two. Null life essence. Limbo. The third one was a bit more understandable. Upgrades to any stat? That seemed simple enough for him. What's this null life essence? I already 50 points of it, he thought. As he ran, the view changed from the lush forest and to a downward slope that lead into a lake. Scullius' socket flames flared as he saw something that made his core cringe. As the patches of grass became less prominent, in the vicinity of the lake, the remaining strands of grass transitioned from their green color to a turquoise blue. Scullius had seen this before and he wasn't going to fall for it again. It was a territory. Something overpowered lived in that lake. Recalling his encounter with Azilla, Skillius bellowed. How would he wiggle out another territory? He turned to the boar and felt like he had come to a new realization. Flesh you, bro. It was you all along. You're leading me into places that will get me killed. With that, he took a sharp turn to his left and avoided the lake, going back up the slope which led to the ongoing forest expanse. I can't keep running away from this socket hole. He'll lead me into another territory eventually. Might as well see what this unbound skill can do. If it can upgrade anything, then. Scullius activated Unbound. He felt a unique energy wrap around his bones. It had a bright blue hue and in the next second, a notification popped before him. What would you like to upgrade with Unbound? Strength, said Scullius as he reached the top of the slope, ran a good distance and turned back. He was going to attack the moment the boar rose up. It would definitely think that he was still running after all. But this time, he had to kill it. A powerful feeling filled his bones. He felt his strength increase, grinning inwardly as he imagined that right now, he would be able to bully bone it. Hell yeah, he yelled. Unbound is active. +5 to STR. Scullius didn't wait any longer. He bolted towards the slope and as soon as the bellowing head of the boar popped up, he launched his bony fist into its forehead. Boom. The boar's head was slammed to the ground, dust flying up as it squealed. Scullius didn't stop there, he brought his arm up and brought it down again with all his strength. Die! 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 He yelled as he pummeled it with all his strength. The boar tried to put up a fight, but having exhausted itself even before Scullius had entered Azilla's territory, it failed to find the strength to retaliate, especially when Scullius kept hammering it in the head. After almost a minute of pounding the brown creature, a notification appeared before Scullius. You have killed LV1 Dead and Apocalypse Spore. You have gained experience. You have leveled up. You have leveled up. Scullius finally stopped when he saw his fist stained in blood and the nasty depression on the boar's head. Your prey. Yes. I've finally killed this pain in the pelvis. Scullius yelled, so relieved at getting of the boar that he didn't get to see what the last notification said. Leveling up was already good news. Disgusting, he remarked as he saw the flowing blood and innards. Eat on that, fleshlings. That's racist. What was that? Nothing. You should finish your evolution before your atrocious luck finds you another boar. Oh, that's right. Scullius focused on the lifeless evolution. It was time to discover what this was all about. A new journey was about to begin and Scullius had no idea how much struggle and benefits it would bring. Chapter 9. Oh, you have begun to tread on the path that no living or dead creature has ever trodden before. The path of lifelessness, otherwise known as null life. There is a purity that comes when a life fades. When the soul is taken, a void is left to be filled which, in the past has been a power that many have tried to harness and failed. A prime example being the power of undeath. A corrupted and lesser form of the purity that comes with death. Embarking on this path, which is a state after life when a void is left, entails holding a presence less power. However, for this power to actually be used by a lesser being, certain elements have been included to balance out the lack of divinity within the user's body, aka you. These elements make the power of null life a little bit quirky. Use this power wisely. Scullius read the contents of the message several times to understand what the flesh was going on with this so-called null life. It's the power found when a life is lost? But it's not exactly death? Scullius thought. Come to think of it, I really have changed, haven't I? I don't feel disgusted by this anymore. Now it feels, meh. Scullius thought as he kicked a few stalks of grass. Indeed, young undead. You now exist between death and life. Purity in death it's called, even though it's not really associated with death. You should see the options that come with this power. Scullius thought. A notification from the guidance field appeared before him, blinking continuously. You will experience a major change in stats and power from this point onwards with the choice you are about to make. Please choose a class. A class. Yes, young undead. Classes are normally available only for life forms like humans while beasts have none. Similarly, Undeath incorporated these classes which you must have seen among the ranks of more powerful undead. Oh right? I see. Like knights and stuff, said Scullius as his socket flames flickered. He vaguely remembered as these details were not really fed to him as a moronic undead. Only basic skills fundamental for manual labor were chosen for them to know. He now felt that if he had told the captains that he had learned mana sense, he would have been fleshed. Indeed. Usually, the concept of tiers is considered when it comes to undead for a class to be granted. From Tier 1. Humans and other sentient life forms who live in main planes don't have this inconvenience as they level up continuously with no evolution like yourself. They have their own system of growth which makes them dangerous creatures to deal with. Again, I will warn you, do not pick a fight with them, especially with your skeletal appearance. I see. I understand none of that, except for staying away from humans. Ugh. Right. You still have a single digit of intelligence. You'll figure it out eventually. Now, choose a class. A class, Scullius thought as he looked at the guidance field which showed several options. Since undeath was no longer a part of him, he wondered what he would get from this new power. Available classes for Boneman Null Life Form. Vehement Bone Null Mancer. Berserk Skull Hegemon. Spirit Walker. Revenant Force Mancer. Oh. Scullius gulped down nothingness as he saw these options. 4 solid options for him to choose from. They all seemed to carry a lot of weight and he really wanted to see what all of them could do. He hadn't forgotten about the doom factors. They had to influence his choice. On top of that, he also wanted to be able to rip Somanda's skull off at the end of at least 100 years. If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelbin.com to experience faster update speed. Let's see what they can do, he said as he poked all the options for more details. Phew phew phew. What was that? And nothing. Vehement Bone Nullmancer. The one who harnesses the power of null life to enhance his connection to mana, solidifying his mastery of the world alongside his followers of the void that hold world-shaking power. He who chooses to walk this path will conquer kingdoms after attaining. Plus 150 mana. Plus 50 intelligence. Plus 20 strength. Apostle summoning. Apostle armament. Depths of the core. Dash hashtag at percent hashtag. Berserk skull hegemon. True power lies in the bone, not the flesh. Transcend the limits of mortal strength with your body and enter the realms of power where a single fist can demolish mountains. Armies will cower at your individual strength which warps space itself. He who chooses this path will be feared after attaining. Plus 200 strength. Plus 40 agility. Plus 50 mana. Berserk armament. Berserk ascension. Forged bones. Dash hashtag percent at carrot. Spirit walker. To be a null life form means to be closer to the edge of non-existence. A fleeting presence that can barely be perceived even by the strongest experts. The greatest enemies are ones that strike without anyone knowing of their presence. He who chooses this path will become a legend that has never been seen after attaining. Plus 150 agility. Plus 40 strength. Plus 80 mana. Shadow assimilation. Border of death. Spirit touch. Dash hashtag percent hashtag end. Revenant force mancer. Those who possess life are capable of manipulating the elements of the world, creating powerful forms of magic from them. Do not envy these weak practitioners, for those who walk on this path are assimilated with the elements of the hashtag percent at dollar and have the power to manipulate them. He who chooses this path will rend all worlds after attaining. Plus 200 mana. Plus 40 strength. Plus 20 agility. Dash dollar percent hashtag percent dollar. Elemental exchange. Elemental ruination. Dash hashtag percent email protected. Foo. Scullius' mind went numb. This was a lot of detail to go through. All the classes promised tremendous aspects of power that made him want to pick them all. Just what would he pick? He went through all the options, again and again, struggling to choose which one would be the most promising. Even with his low intelligence, he knew that the decision he made right now would affect his journey beyond. Unfortunately, he couldn't see details about the additional skills that came with the class, the others having their names hidden as well. What's with those that I can't read? He asked. The information on those skills is either barred from you until you reach tier 1 or isn't available to you until you have broken through a certain realm of power other than tiers. I see, said Scullius. He thought about these realms of power and instantly realized that they must be related to the power that Azilla exuded. Just when would he reach that level? The issue of tiers also boggled his mind. I guess that's why that pervert was so strong even as a level 1. He had a higher tier. Wait. What's a pervert? Gaga. It's happening again. Scullius clutched his head. After a few more seconds of considering and yelling at himself, he finally came to a conclusion. There's no other choice. I have to pick this one, he said as he poked the guidance field. Chapter 10. Scullius' mind had spun as he thought about the best option for him to choose. He knew this wasn't simply about getting overwhelming strength. Even though he wasn't an undead anymore, he was still bound by Doom Factor 1. As a summoned creature, he needed to supply himself with mana constantly to rid himself of that Doom Factor. He would know the specifics of how much he needed soon enough, but he had considered it more clearly now that he wasn't being chased by a murderous boar or standing in the presence of a godlike beast. I would really love to have great physical strength, though, he thought as he lost himself to this possibilities, seeing himself prancing in a field under the gazes of his jealous friends as they adored his bulky figure and lustrous bones. They would drool and ask him how he got so strong, and he imagined himself imparting his divine wisdom. Milk, my fellow grobman. Milk. Wait. What? He thought as he shook his head. However, he knew that would probably be a bad idea. He had never been a bones for brains kind of skeleton. He had always been interested in mana, and the interest he had in manipulating it had saved his life in Dead Man Land. Even though he knew that was the logical choice, Scullius couldn't help but shed a non-existent tear at the prospect of giving up on the attractively named class, Berserk Skull Hegemon. Shut up. Scullius barked at Val. The only two options he considered were the first and last. Vehement Bone Nullmancer and Revenant Force Mancer. Spirit Walker didn't seem all that attractive to Scullius because from what he'd seen both in Dead Man Land and this new world, all that had left a deep impression on him was unbridled might that didn't need to be hidden. The Death Knights, Somanda, Azilla, and even that perverted boar. Besides, the mana it offered was less than the other two, which made it even less attractive. The Force Mancer sounds good, but I can't even see many of the skills. What if I can't use them until I'm as strong as Azilla? That would be problematic, Scullius thought. But that must also mean they are quite powerful, right? Then there was the Vehement Bone Nullmancer. It came with a lot of mana, and even though it didn't boost strength by much, he still found it attractive. The skills it gave made it the most attractive out of the bunch. The word summon had already won him over. He was intrigued by the prospect of becoming like Somanda. It's something like that, right? Like being able to summon soldiers to do what I want? Right, Vow bro. This is your own choice, young undead. TK. Scullius clacked his teeth in displeasure. Above all else though, what made him want this class some more was one thing. One thing that he knew he needed. One thing that would make him feel whole. One thing he felt would be a pain in the pelvis if he didn't acquire it right now. I need that intelligence, he screamed. Even though he had evolved from being a moronic undead, he still felt the lingering embers of his moronhood dancing in the emptiness of his skull. But with those 50 points, he felt that he would at least get Vow to stop mocking him. There's no other choice, Scullius thought as he poked on the guidance field. You have selected Vehement Bone Nullmancer as your class. Please note that you cannot change classes in the future, and advancements in the class will stem solely from Vehement Bone Nullmancer. Would you like to proceed? If you want to read more chapters, please visit novelbin.com to experience faster update speed. Scullius clacked his teeth as he felt a vague sense of fear from the fact that he couldn't divert from what he had chosen. It made sense, but why did this notification need to sound so ominous? Yes, he said, pushing forward with his resolve. This had to be the right choice, right? A tremendous force shot up from his feet and encased his entire body with a bluish-white flame that licked his bones. The power he felt at this moment was staggering as he felt changes appear within him. His core, his bones and his mind shook. You have become a full-fledged null life form. You have become Vehement Bone Nullmancer. You have received plus 150 mana. You have received plus 50 intelligence. You have received plus 20 strength. The following skills have been added. Apostle Summoning. Apostle Armament. Depths of the Core. @ #@. You have finished basic evolution to Null Life. You have received the skill Null Life Aura. Your power comes from the serenity that rises after life. Your presence is overwhelming yet tranquil. You are neither claimed by the living nor the dead. Your soul and body are protected by serenity. All physical and spiritual damage will be reduced by 50%. Scullius felt an intense change in his bones. They grew by a bit, their shade changing to a foggy gray as the flame in his sockets turned darker. He felt his mind become less foggy and his thoughts became free. A certain feeling attached itself to his core, but Scullius couldn't discern where it was coming from. After a few seconds, the transitions and flames died down, Scullius finally getting the chance to look at his own body. He ran the fingers of his one arm on the bones of his ribs and rejoiced. He could feel that he wasn't as brittle and weak as he had been. "This is incredible," he said. He looked at all the notifications he had received and marveled. With his mind feeling clearer than ever, he felt that he could understand all the basic details very well. The first thing that he wanted to know was what the skills he received from his class could do. Apostle Summon LV1. When an enemy is slain by your hand, purify it and bring it to the border of life and death, assigning it as your apostle. When summoned, it will be sustained by #% until it dies. Mana requirements, 100 mana points. Duration, none. Cooldown, none. Apostle Armament LV1. A servant needs great strength to protect their master. Using mana and null life essence, grant your apostle skills so that they remain useful while standing by your side. Please note that this skill is more effective when your servant has obtained class. Mana requirements, 250 mana points plus 2000 null life essence. Duration, none. Cooldown, none. Depths of the core LV1. To attain great strength, one must understand their own source of power. The core. The more one understands, the more they can evolve their strength from the standard to the elite boundary where very few reside. When this skill is used, the user can alter their core in the direction they want. Mana requirements, 500 mana points. Duration, 1 minute. Cooldown, 100 days. @@##. Locked. The costs are insane. Scullius explained. Wow. I never thought a miner like me would ever say something like that. Sniff. I've grown so much. Scullius wiped away a non-existent tear and continued scrolling through all the options. He was excited. Depths of the core attracted his attention quite a bit since it had to do with his core. Did this mean he could actually change his core? To what exactly? The lack of knowledge was biting his hungry mind. He began reassuring himself that he had chosen the right class. If such a thing as changing one's core was possible, then he would make sure that he used the skill to the fullest, granting him every single advantage he could. As expected, the last skill was not available to him. He would patiently wait for it. The apostle set was intriguing. He could resurrect a foe he had killed. The prospect of having an army like Somanda made the flames in his socket burn fiercely. Unfortunately, for now, he was limited to a single one. A single apostle. But wasn't this just like Undead? What was the difference? The descriptions weren't enough to give him the full picture, and he found himself wanting to know more about this skill that piqued his interest. How could he possibly know more about it? His sockets turned to the dead body of the boar and Scullius clacked his teeth.